you, Kerstin. Today I have Kerstin McInnis here for our Friday LinkedIn Makeover session. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm actually going to share my screen here, and we are going to go to Kerstin's LinkedIn profile. So first of all, Kerstin, thank you for being willing to record this and for getting the feedback on your profile today.
Absolutely, I'm excited.
Good. And so what I'm going to be doing, so Kerstin is the VP of Virtual Experiences at Two River Pictures. And so what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to go through Kerstin's LinkedIn profile from top to bottom and give her feedback on things that she could do to improve it just even a little bit, or in some cases a lot. And before we started this session, Kerstin had told me that there were 3 things that she wanted to be known for as an executive and as a leader. Number 1, her creativity. Number 2, being someone who's very encouraging. And number 3, her mentorship and being a mentor. And so, Kerstin, that's the place that I'm going to be coming from as we go through this, is keeping that, because we want those themes to come out in as we go through the profile.
Perfect.
So the first thing is that we'll look at your pictures, and your profile picture is absolutely stunning. I would not make any changes to that at all. You've got really good, clear resolution. You have a beautiful smile. You have a really cool kind of a background to it. It's really inviting and really friendly. And so, you know, no changes at all. Like that, if people had background stuff in it, or if the resolution wasn't very good, but in your case, that's not happening at all. So beautiful, beautiful picture.
Thank you. Win.
Yeah, I know, good job. The second thing that we want to look at is this background image, because you have this really amazing real estate, essentially, of where you can have the image, and it's one of these things that people will draw. It'll draw your eye to it. And so I know we chatted before here, and this is a stunningly beautiful picture of Portland, right?
Yep.
And so this is what happens a lot of times, is that people will take something that's personally meaningful to them, and they'll put it onto their profile. But since we're talking about a business and representing kind of a business representation of you, utilizing the images as well, then my suggestion on this one is that you pick a picture that is either, like in your case, because you're working for a media company and you guys have some cool projects and maybe some cool logo work, is that you either replace this with something that's relevant for Two River Pictures,
yeah,
or maybe some sort of logo or a key image that you guys might have as a business, because then that automatically, when I land on your profile, like I instantly get it. I see the business association. Another idea here is that you can actually go to free stock image places like Pixabay. Pixabay.com is a great one. All kinds of free images with open licensing, and you can look and see if you can find a picture that represents in your mind mentorship or creativity or kind of encouragement, and you can pick an image and use that instead.
Okay.
So great job picking a custom image. Like that's a really good thing. But in terms of an up level, I'd suggest that you either use something for Two River that's applicable there for the company that you're at, or pick something that represents one of your brand words that's important to you.
Love it.
Yeah. So the second thing that I recommend people do is to utilize this headline space right here. And what has happened for you is what is the default for LinkedIn, because what LinkedIn does is that they'll always default that section to your current job title. And so that's fine, but you have this opportunity with that space to actually use that space for other things that you want to be known for. So this could be something like a brand statement, you know, encouraging and creative executive leading, you know, whatever you do in your business. So you could have an actual statement there. If that's something that you want to chat about, let me know, because I help people come up with those brand statements.
Yeah.
Or the easy thing to do is just to choose the key words that you want to be known for. So creativity might be one, and you could even decide, like, where do you like to channel your creativity? Is it creative problem solving? Is it creative design? Is it creative media? So that might help me if I landed on your profile. I would know that you're a creative person, but where are you really passionate about channeling your creativity, and just add that other word there. Does anything come to mind right now as you're listening?
Well, I'm sitting here going like, duh, like, how did I not know that you could do this? And how do I do it?
Well, that's the thing, is that people don't usually, like, most people are not spending that much time on their LinkedIn profile. You know, they'll put it together and then they kind of forget about it for a while.
Yeah.
And so that's so common. And so that's why I do this work, is just to give people some new ideas of how they could actually use it for their advantage.
Yeah.
And so just be thinking, like, the easiest thing for you is be thinking about the keywords. Like, you can have executive leadership. You could have creative problem solving, or design, or strategic planning, or whatever those kinds of things are that you do in your work. And then the mentorship, like, include that on a keyword too, because that's an important part of who you are and what you do as a leader. So utilize that space. And then as we go down to the about section, you have done a great job in a number of different ways. The first thing that you did really well is that you utilized a powerful quote. And so what we want to do with the about section is I actually give a 5-step recipe on this, and you've actually hit on a number of them.
Woohoo!
So one of the things you did well is that you talked in first person, because you want that about section to be like an online conversation. Another thing that you did really well was utilizing that quote, because most people are not going to click more. So you want whatever you have in that top section of your LinkedIn to be something that's interesting. And so that quote from Deepak is probably something that's really important to you, and something that has been a powerful quote for you for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, and it speaks to my passion for wellness. So
Yeah.
it speaks to that. So
Perfect. And so if that's something that that approach and that philosophy of wellness also extends to who you are as a leader too, then that works out great.
Oh, it does. Ooh, I just like that connection. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So then
Yeah.
you can start telling that story, because that's a unique differentiator for you. And so then what I recommend, one thing that you could do in here, Kerstin, is like, the step one is to have a powerful point of view, or a key quote, or a question, or a saying that catches people's attention. You've done that. The second step that I suggest is that you give a little bit of a background story. Like you've said, over 25 years, I've worked across these things, and what you did with Xbox and all of that, and kind of the awards that you got. But what I'm interested in knowing is not so much about what you did, like some of the Xbox stuff, but tell me, what did you learn from that time in your life? And how did what you learned during that time, how does that come into play with how you lead now? You know, I spent 25 years as a corporate marketing professional across marketing, events, promotions, communication, Xbox 360. And what I learned from all of that time is this. And that is what is most important to me as a leader right now. Like that kind of a theme. Then I know a little bit more about you, other than just what you did in your career. And I can see it extends into how you lead right now.
You're connecting the dots in my head. Thank you.
Good. That's what I'm here to do.
I'm feeling less schizophrenic.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what you want to be able to do, is the connection between the different roles that you've had in your career is the themes of what you learned from this. And so that's what, then that's what I'm taking away if I land on your profile, isn't just that you did all these things, but you gained all of this knowledge and this learning that you're now putting into action now. And then the third step in this kind of recipe is to transition into what you're doing now. And so you did a little bit of that, but you kind of have some opportunity to extend that in your, because you've said a lot about what you did in the past, but not as much about where you are right now with Two River Pictures. And so you can actually have a transition that says, you know, in my current role at Two River Pictures, I did this.
Okay.
And then I also suggest, and you get to decide where you want to put this. I suggest that people put like a key win, or I say maybe one of your greatest hits. And you actually did include this, Kerstin. You included your awards for the Future Marketing Award. And so what you get to decide now, is that the greatest hit, like achievement that you want to have in here? Or is there something that you've done with Two River Pictures that you're super proud of that you would want to include instead? So that's just a personal choice. But the fact that you added this recognition says something about your credibility as a leader, the success that you've had in your career. So that's really awesome.
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah. And then the last piece is what you did as well, which is you called it specialties.
Uh-huh.
Some people will call it skills or competencies or strengths, but that is listing all of the key things that you are known for and involved with. And so for you, that might be some other things. You get to decide how much you want to put. Maybe you're doing strategic planning. Maybe you're doing organizational development. Maybe you're doing entrepreneurial leadership. And like, so you can, because you don't have too much in here right now. And I have a hunch that you're probably doing a lot more in your role now that maybe isn't on here.
Yeah.
The thing that's nice about that is that if I am considering hiring Two River Pictures and I land on your profile and I see you as a leader of the company, I have a little bit of a broader sense of what you do there. And even it helps to integrate what Two River Pictures does too, because you are a leadership representative for that company.
Yeah. Great.
So, and then, that'll be picked up in keyword searches as well.
Okay.
And so then if we kind of keep going on here, I know that you're really active on LinkedIn, which is awesome. Some people aren't, so that's a thing that they need to pay attention to. The one thing to be thinking about when it comes to the activity is, remember in the beginning of this conversation, you were saying, I want to be known for someone with the creativity, who's encouraging, and who really is that mentor and appreciates mentorship. And so if those are the three themes for you that are important to you, then you can be intentional about your LinkedIn activity.
Okay.
You can either be writing articles or sharing posts or commenting on posts that were in your mind inspirational.
Yeah.
Or that were very, like you can be very encouraging just in the commentary that you share. And then anytime you see an article on mentoring or mentorship, that you're the first one to share that or comment on it. And so then what I see, if I were to look at 6 months of your activity, all of a sudden I start to see this theme emerge of the key things that are important to you. A lot of times people don't think about that, and it's just kind of ad hoc and random. They'll comment on this, that, or the other. But what we want to be able to do is to have a real theme emerge, that you start to be known for someone who's encouraging and known as someone who really is a stand-up mentor and that type of thing.
That makes sense. And it's funny because I think I only do typically focus on those things, but that's good.
Yeah. And then so you can be thinking about that. And even in the commentary, and I hadn't looked into what your comments are, but one of the things that you can do to set yourself apart too is when you're commenting, make sure you're always tagging that person who did the post. But also just go a little further. And I like to use this word edify, like if somebody wrote a great article that you think is really amazing, then you can just say, thank you, tagged person. What you've done here is really elevated leadership. You're saying something really kind and encouraging about that person. That's like a level up from what a lot of people might do, is just to say, great job, or something like that. So
or just give it a thumbs up and walk away. So yeah, it's making it mean a little more.
Right. Because people see these comments, as someone who does a lot of posting, like I see the comments that people have. And so you get to start to build a reputation for yourself too, when you're doing thoughtful comments on people's posts. So that's always a really good thing. And then for your experience, you've done an awesome job with this, because you have actually listed a really rich summary of what you do there. And that is great. So sometimes people don't put very much on here at all, but you have done a great job here. So if I landed on your profile, I would want to know, well, what exactly do you do as a vice president? What does a vice president of virtual experiences do? And you've provided good insight on this. You know, the only other thing that you could do as applicable if you wanted to is as you have like a big achievement or a key win or a big success, either for you personally or for the business, you can add that as a bullet point.
Okay.
And that's a nice add and a nice credibility booster that showcases some of the great work either you've done personally or that your business has done.
Nice. Okay.
And then in your work and corporate wellness and leadership, you've also listed a key summary about what you've done here. And is your website still active or is that closed now?
You know, it is live, and it's maintained, but I haven't written a blog post in a few years.
Yeah, so this is one of these things when people are kind of switching from entrepreneurial into corporate and vice versa, that you get to make a choice of whether you would want people to go there or not. And if it's active and you're still running that, like I know people that have a side business and they have a corporate job and they have a side passion. And if that's the case, that's fine. And if it's really not being maintained for the time being, then you can just take that section off of your profile. So that would be fine too. And then you've listed the great experience here. Again, if you've had key wins, like that's something that I see, like this is the time not to be super braggy and list like 27 things you've done well, but you've had some great successes. I know that you have. And so just including those as a bullet point or a key win, definitely feel free to do that.
Okay.
And then you've got your background as your work at Microsoft. You've got your education. On the education, Kerstin, this is something where I say people can just take their year off. It's optional. And so that what's most important is that you have the degree and or the certification. And so you can take the years off. And then if there's any other certifications or trainings you've done along the way, then you can certainly add those in there too. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I did do that training. I just totally forgot about it. So just go back and add those as applicable.
Okay.
And then on the skills and endorsements, this is one where sometimes it just sort of defaults to whatever LinkedIn lists as the most endorsed skills, but they might not be the ones that you want. And so in your work now as a VP of virtual experiences, what you have listed here is PR, marketing strategy, and marketing communication. Are those the three skills that you would want to be known for, or all or none?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think marketing strategy probably still makes sense, but you know, PR, I don't know if that makes sense anymore. And I didn't know that you could change these.
You can actually. There's that little pencil. I'm not looking at it here because I'm on your profile, but from your view, you can click on that little tiny pencil edit, and you can actually move these around to move the ones up to the top that you want to have showing. Because most people do not click show more.
Yeah. What's on it when you hit show more?
Yeah. And so most people aren't going to click that. So it has all these other things in here.
Yeah, there's other things I would want to be up higher.
Right. So you get to edit that. So then if I'm just scrolling, most people are only going to scroll quickly through your whole LinkedIn profile. So they'll just pick up these highlights. And then in terms of recommendations, these are great. You have 9 recommendations, Kerstin, which is fabulous. I would just say keep it up.
Okay.
You know, so if you have clients that you've worked with or past colleagues, etc., that you can get, you know, the good rule of thumb is to have at least 2 or 3 that are current in that calendar year.
Okay.
And so you're pretty current, but if you can get 1 or 2 from 2021, then that's ideal.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm going to ask.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it and ask. And here's a little pro tip on this too. If you're willing to reciprocate for people, people are really willing. Everybody wants a recommendation on their LinkedIn profile. So if you're like, hey, you know, we worked together on this project, I'm looking to upgrade my LinkedIn profile. You know, would you be willing to put a recommendation on there about the work that we did together? I would be really happy to reciprocate for you. And most people, especially if you're willing to reciprocate, are like, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's always really nice. You can also, if you feel like it, tell people, sometimes people don't really know what to say. And if you have some key things that you want them to call out in their recommendation, like I would really like for you to call out the creativity that we did together on this project, or that you can call out the mentorship that I provided to you or something like that.
Okay.
And people are usually willing to do that. And then on your accomplishments, this is outstanding because you have some amazing, amazing accomplishments. And so if you have any others, like you have the honors and awards, which is amazing. These accomplishments includes a whole bunch of different sections. And so you can look at that and see if there's any others that you want to add. But just the fact that you have this here is fantastic.
Okay.
The only other thing that I don't see here, Kerstin, if applicable, that you've done any volunteer work or that you're involved in any particular organizations right now, that's a nice ad because it says something about who you are as a person, particularly if you're doing volunteer work where you're in a leadership capacity of some type.
Yeah.
And then just like with you, the way you've done with your experience, you can put a little couple sentences underneath the volunteer section if that's applicable for you. And you can just say, here's what I did with this organization.
Okay, perfect.
So if you have done that, that's a great ad. I've actually had people that have made a connection with me just as a result of they volunteered for the same organization. So you kind of just never know where there's going to be that connection with people.
Yeah, it's one of those things too that it's in the back of my mind always. I want to do some volunteer work. I don't want to do it. I want to do it, but I have this really bad all or nothing habit. And so I'm trying to let that go a little bit so I can have a little bit of some of this in my life because I would like it. I really would.
Well, that's great. Good. Then that might be a good aspiration for you to actually put more of your creativity, your encouragement, and even your mentorship, Kerstin.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity for mentorship in some type of volunteer capacity for some kind of organization that you feel really passionate about.
Yeah.
That is a great way of emphasizing that part or that brand word that's important to you. Because what we're looking for in the LinkedIn is if I read through it, do I see some themes emerging? Or if you've said that you're creative, encouraging, and a mentor, do I see proof and validation of that throughout your experience and accomplishments and maybe volunteer if applicable, etc.
Would being on a board fall under the volunteer area if it's
Yes, for sure. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. If you've been on boards, paid or not, either way.
Yeah.
If they're paid board positions, then you would put them under experience.
Sure.
If they're not paid, then you would put them under volunteer.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This is on my goal list for the year. So
good. Excellent. Well, good. And then the last piece is the interest section. And so this is one where you can just be intentional about the types of organizations and people that you're following. And so if there is a thought leader who's known for being someone who's very encouraging, like Ariana Huffington comes to mind. Like you can be thinking about certain thought leaders that certainly Deepak Chopra is definitely one of them. And so you can be thinking about types of people that are living those kinds of key themes that you have, and or companies that are kind of in the leadership role. And so because of course, as you know, you'll be getting the feeds from all these different companies and people in your news feed in LinkedIn. So you can be intentional about who you want to choose as your interests.
Yeah, this is so funny because I'm like, when did I start following KPMG? Like, I don't even, and I don't know what this high ticket client attraction insiders thing is. I have no idea.
Yeah, so this is where you can just go back and you can edit this section, or you can unfollow if you like. Maybe that was something that you did 4, 5, or 6 years ago, which is so common for people when they just, it's like we don't spend time on our LinkedIn profile. It's so common, but then you have the opportunity to look back at these things and just say, do I still want this to be on here? Or maybe that was a part of my past chapter in life and it's not relevant anymore. And you can start to unfollow, and then it creates space for you to start add some new names or companies to your list.
Nice. Love it.
So overall, Kirsten, great job on your profile. It's in good shape for sure. Just a few things that you can consider that we talked about of making updates on. And so that is it. That's a wrap.